Good morning, friends. It is quite a lovely morning here in Southern Oregon. Cool temperatures, and it's the type of morning that feels like a gift more than others, I think. And of course, every day is a gift. Of course. But every cake is a cake, and some of them are phenomenal, and some of them are just cake. There's something about something standing out that grabs our attention, grabs our focus. And I think that's what we're going to touch into a little bit in our practice this morning is those times when we are understanding that our presence is being requested. And what that can look like to give that attention. The openings that can occur with that coming together of our focus and our receiving. So thanks for joining here at Journey Home Meditation for the morning sit. And stick around for just a little bit. We'll have some shared breathing practice, some poetry, and we'll talk a little bit about love today. I am Michael, and I am very happy to be here today. Okay. So before we go any further, let's just have a few moments to settle into our body and find the present moment, find our awareness. Awareness is sort of like attention, but with the intention of receiving. Uh, it's like stepping back just a little bit to widen the scope of our perception. So instead of living in this prefrontal cortex, let's step back a little bit and sort of have a larger view of our body and the room around us, and participate in witnessing just for a moment what it is to breathe. If you're seated as I am, I'm on a couple of cushions on the floor and have my legs crossed in what's generally called half lotus. You can sit with your legs crossed in any number of positions or even uncrossed. However, it is that you can find your body in a place that you can sit in stillness and without stress or strain facilitate the breath, the ability to focus on the breath. And I know there's a strange contradiction in terms there to pull away our perception and to hone in our focus at the same time. Um, but there are moments where words just leave short a little bit what practice can do. So the practice right now is to feel as we breathe in what's happening in our body. And as we breathe out, feel the shift in the way we hold ourselves, and see if you can begin to create enough silence and enough stillness in your body, in your mind, in your chattering thoughts to begin to hear those subtle voices of the body as they slowly begin to surface. It's like when you see the dusk settle in at twilight, and the sky is this really beautiful slow shift into blues and and it gets darker and darker, and there's a moment when you see the first star in the sky, um, and then they start to appear. That's similar to what this awareness of our internal voices are. um, the emotions, the physical sensations, all of these things that want to come up, these intuitions and feelings and um, all that is existing from the neck down that we don't see in our day of living from the neck up. You know, most of our conscious awareness exists right in this general area above the neck and below the hair on the top of our head. We have our eyes that see, we have our mouth that tastes and speaks, we have our nose that smells, our ears that hear. Almost all of our material and physical sensations are somewhat centered in that one location. But even more um, poignant about that space is we think that our mind and our brain are the same, so we leave our consciousness in our head. But when we begin to do this practice, we can start to understand in short time that we have the ability to move our conscious awareness anywhere into our body that we'd like. It doesn't mean we're moving our brain, but the place that we center our sensory field can shift. For instance, take a few breaths with me and breathe as if you're breathing directly into and out of your heart. Just imagine, use your thoughts to create the notion that you are breathing directly in and out of your heart. Stay with that breath. What sensations are you feeling with that shift? You noticed a silence in your mind. Your thinking mind shifts into a different way of perceiving your own body. What emotions are coming up? I know for me, when I just started right now with bringing my conscious awareness directly into my heart with each breath, I started to feel something beautiful in my chest and my ribs. It almost brings a quiver to my chin. I can't begin to describe what it is, except for to say that it's there and it's something that's lives there. It lives there, and bringing your attention to it is, I think, maybe what they mean when they say stop and smell the roses. You know, we walk through and drive through and bike through these worlds every day, but there's a real gift, a real benefit in stopping and being present with something on our paths. And to think that we can live so much of our days unaware of what's happening right inside of our bodies. Shift perspective and now breathe as if you're breathing right into the bottom of your lower back. Bring your conscious awareness to your lower back as you breathe in and out. Man, such an amazing capacity that we have for holding, we are these vessels, these receptacles, these containers of experience, of feeling, of emotion, of thought, of imagination. And that's a powerful tool. Let's not ever discount the power of imagination. Um, I work with people sometimes in the depth of their most difficult struggles with mental health and emotional health. And it's so often, I will have the experience of someone coming to me and saying, I just don't know if it's all in my head. Yeah, I'm feeling this. I will but I don't have the know. It might experience all of be in someone my coming head. To me and saying, I just don't know if it's all in my head. Strange. I just started hearing an echo. Maybe that's all in my head. But what I think is really profound about that is I want to just say, yes, it is. Yep. Yeah, it probably is. But that's okay. That's not an indictment of your mental health state, or to say that you are just making it up when you are feeling pain. Yeah. A lot of what we carry and how we engage and experience those emotions depends upon the ways in which we believe and think about these experiences. I think a really good example of that is to say, hold on. I think a really good example of that is to say, yeah, we've got an echo here. I apologize. I hope that hasn't been happening the whole time, but that's okay. But a way to think about that it's all in my head is we learn lessons about emotional states, usually starting quite young. And the example that comes to mind for me is a big one. It's love. Now you can see the word love all over the place here. I've got love on my shirt. I've got love on the microphone. It's something we talk about quite often. And there's a reason for that. I feel that this is one of the most difficult and contentious human needs and offerings that we have. And when you hear love, you have already had a number of lessons and teachers giving you parameters by which to understand love. And so when you see something like love everybody, that's going to land differently on different people based on their beliefs around what that means to love or to be loved. But when I think about maybe it's all in my head, it brings to mind that I may have a definition of love as something that is to be earned and proven. And this concept of who deserves love and why is an integral part of my belief and understanding of love. So I begin to take my experience of where love can land in my body. There's these different expressions of love, these different voices of love that touch in for us. And just taking a few breaths right now, see if you can find into a feeling of love in your body. Um, I always start here with the chest and the heart because we associate the heart with love. So our mental association is going to be one of this is where love is generated. And you're not wrong. So take a few breaths right into your heart space. And you might begin to feel that slight vibration in the chest, that butterflies in the stomach. You might begin to feel melancholy, feelings of nostalgia or grief. Depending on what it is that you believe about when you are allowed to feel this love, is going to determine how you characterize what you feel. And there's a lot of different lessons. It's not, sometimes we want to focus on the negative things because that's how we prioritize healing, is by focusing on the injury, but that's not necessary. Um, we can also touch into all of those beautiful things about love that we've learned. Um, But it's when we move our conscious awareness out of our thoughts and our mind and our heads into these spaces in our body that just the experience of the sensation can be there. No story, no thought, no rationalizing or talking ourselves out of it, just feeling. The body is quite a large space that's outside of your head that is full of the ability to feel. And if you'll notice, there's cultural elements that we have in our society. And I think that we can probably agree we have a profoundly unhealthy society for a lot of reasons. Um, Anxiety levels, um, the suicide rates and isolation, loneliness, all of these epidemics that we're experiencing of pain and suffering and individualism, they're all there. And there's elements of our society that want to say that your feelings are somehow invalid or unimportant or uh, worthy of mockery or being ignored. And I think that this is the logical conclusion of the way in which we have been taught to not feel our body. And I think it begins with pain and the uncomfortable feelings, but once you start going down a road of dissociation, you miss on all of it, because you start to learn, when you start to feel, that there is an overlap or an intersectionality of feelings and emotions that exist all the time. There is a very short time that it would take for me to step into my love and feel these deep feelings of love, it would be very short moments, maybe fractions of seconds, before I could also just as easily be in the pain associated there. There's sorrow, there's loss. Um, and the same when I step into a sensation of contentment and happiness. Um, Within that, there's sadness, and there's a sorrow there for all of the time that I spend where I'm not content. And then I can touch into it, and it's like, yes, this is amazing. And I'm also experiencing a bit of sadness for myself for the time that I'm not able to feel this. So there's a recognition already that these sensations overlap, but our stories don't allow for that. You're either happy or you're sad. You're either loved or you are unloved. And when we can begin to use our imagination to open ourselves to actually experiencing what we feel in our body, we can unite those two seemingly contradictory things, because we've separated our head and our body so much so that we think, well, that's just in my head. It can't be real in my body, but it is. It very much is. So when people come to me and say, maybe it's all in my head, I say, yeah, maybe. So let's see where else it is. Let's get out of your head for a moment and let's get into your body. Let's find our way into feeling. I know that I am learning so much about my own disordered eating. My relationship to food has not one that's been one of nourishment and health for a long time in my life, since I was a kid. I've had these struggles with shame and guilt around food and eating, and times of, unhealthy views of food or unhealthy views of my body because of my relationship to food. And I've witnessed this, my whole life. I witnessed this in my mother, who, since I was probably in utero, has been on a diet. She's been on a diet of some sort. The house used to be filled with the smell of cabbage and onion because she was on the Dolly Parton cabbage soup diet for a long time, where she would just make huge pots of boiled cabbage that she would live on for days and days and days in the hopes of becoming happier. As she became thinner, and that was going to change her life. That was going to make everything okay. So I've had this disordered relationship to food, and I realized over the last few years of doing this practice, this re-embodiment, this unification with my sensory experience, that I am so well practiced at dissociation that I don't know what food feels like in my body. And not until I feel pain do I feel full. So I have a habit of binge eating, overeating, for my maybe in my entire life, because I learned to dissociate from the feelings of the body when I was taught not to express pain, but I was also taught to feel shame around pleasure as a child. I was taught to carry guilt around the pleasure of the body. For years as a kid, 11, 12 years old, I would beg forgiveness from Jesus, thinking I would go to hell for masturbating before I went to sleep. There's a profound level of injury that comes with those types of lessons learned. And there's an equally profound moment for healing and connection when we can see that that's what's happened in our bodies. So these simple practices of the breath, they are not a small thing. And this is where we find that love is provided. It's here all the time. It's always here, somewhere in your body. And you may first find it as shame and guilt, because that's what's going to start to come up first. Those louder voices might start coming up and they're uncomfortable, but then you look just beneath them. You feel those feelings, and then you see what's connected to those, what's being silenced by the loudness of your shame. In there somewhere is a need to be seen. And as soon as you start to see those parts of yourself underneath the shame, shame being that thing that makes you want to hide your face away, hide your shame. As soon as you start to be seen, you start to come alive. Like a flower in the morning sun, you start to open yourself to that nourishment. There's love there. It's providence. And then things like love everybody, well, that just becomes part of what we do. And who would have thought years of binge eating Doritos and Oreo cookies could all culminate in taking a few breaths and understanding, oh, I did that because I did not have a relationship with the feeling of my body. So I would eat until it hurts, because that was the only time I knew I was full, because I wasn't feeling my body at all. And why would I not feel my body? Well, I was ashamed of it or afraid of it. And it's hard to love something that you're ashamed of or afraid of, isn't it? And I don't know which comes first. I don't know if loving takes the shame and fear away, or if removing those barriers of fear and shame allow the love to bloom, but it doesn't matter because it's all in my head. That's where it begins. So let's bring it into our bodies. A few breaths together. I have these poems. I'm gonna give us a poem today. It's Allen Ginsberg. The book is called Mind Breaths. It's a City Lights Pocket Poets book. Allen Ginsberg famously brought practices of chanting and Eastern philosophy and religion to the West. He was a culturally Jewish, religiously Jewish American queer poet who started to discover his connections to these practices, these Eastern practices, and shared them openly, and was famous for chanting Hare Krishna at Vietnam War protests and having crowds of thousands of people surrounded by tear gas and riot police sit on the ground and chant Om. And these were his offerings. And this is a poem that is from Mind Breaths that I found to be right aligned with what I wanted to talk about today. It's called On Neruda's death. Neruda is Pablo Neruda, the great Chilean poet. Some breath breathes out Adonai and Canto General. Some breath breathes out bombs and dog barks. Some breath breathes silent over green snow mountains. Some breath breathes not at all. Simple. Just recognizing that it's all breath. All of these expressions come from a living being, and to be living being is to breathe. So are you breathing out canto general? Are you breathing out songs? Or are you breathing out bombs and barking dogs? But you'll never know until you bring awareness to that breath. And I'd like to spend a moment with Bell Hook's Appalachian Elegy. I wanted to read again the poem from yesterday. I didn't focus on it very long, and I'm not going to focus on it very long today, but I wanted to read it again. This is number 23 from Bell Hook's Appalachian Elegy. Maybe we'll read this one each day this week. We'll see. Bring Buddha to rest home in Kentucky hills, that outside each window a light may shine, not a guilt teaching tradition. Be balanced, know loving kindness, end suffering. Rejoice in the oneness of life, then let go. Carry nothing on your back. Travel empty as you climb steep mountain paths. Outside each window a light may shine, not a guilt teaching tradition. Be balanced, know loving kindness, end suffering. Rejoice in the oneness of life, then let go. I think this is maybe what it means to take refuge in the Buddha. Take refuge in the Dharma and take refuge in the Sangha. These are three vows, Bodhisattva vows. To take refuge is to seek shelter. And shelter is that place of home and containment for all of the things that you need to do. Places of safety. Finding safety in our bodies is key. It's vital. It's necessary. It's a non-negotiable for healing. And when we can't find safety, we have to find ways to provide safety. And there's so many of us don't have those safety spaces. So take a few breaths today. Let your body know that it's safe in just this moment, just right now, safe enough to speak. And listen deeply and find the love. Thanks for being here this morning. If you are listening to this today, please take the time to engage. Um, you can leave a comment telling me your experience with coming into your body or having difficulty coming into your body. Because as you share your experiences, each of us get to connect even deeper on understanding the uh, connections that we all have, the ways in which we are not alone. And while it may all be in my head, well, it's all in your head too. uh, and that's helpful. It's very helpful. You can be helpful today by engaging publicly with other people around some of these ideas. I'm not asking you to bear it all to the world, but I'm just suggesting that you have an opportunity to bring to the table conversation and love. So consider taking that opportunity. And engaging with the algorithmic tools on these sites, wherever you're hearing this, if it's on YouTube, Facebook, um, Apple Music, Substack, wherever you are right now, just engaging helps to um, let others who are not yet aware of these daily practices that these exist. And you never know. If you found something helpful, someone else will as well. And maybe they have something helpful to offer all of us. So thanks again for being here. I really love being able to sit and share these practices with you. Hariom.